India, the land of miraculous beliefs and mystical powers. India, a land steeped in mystical beliefs and extraordinary phenomena. Since the time of the Buddha, stories have abounded about his remarkable qualities, often referring to him as the Omniscient One or the All-Knowing Sage. While this title may carry some truth, as the Buddha had indeed attained enlightenment and transcended all ignorance, it raises an intriguing question. Did he truly know all things, at all times, in all places, as some claimed? On one occasion, someone asked the Buddha this very question. His candid response was both insightful and humble. Whoever says that the recluse Gotama knows and sees all things, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, is misrepresenting me. However, the Buddha clarified that it was accurate to say he had attained the threefold knowledge: the knowledge of past lives, the knowledge of death and rebirth, and the knowledge of the cessation of all mental defilements. He never claimed to possess infinite knowledge of every mundane detail. Instead, his focus was always on what was necessary for liberation from suffering. Within this scope, he was indeed all-knowing. The Buddha did not deny the existence of supernatural powers or siddhis. In Indian tradition, such powers were considered natural products of genuine spiritual practice. The scriptures describe these abilities vividly, transforming one's form, passing through walls, walking on water, soaring through the air, and even reaching out to touch the sun and moon. The Buddha himself was said to have possessed the ability to hear sounds from great distances and recall countless past lives. Once, the Venerable Ananda, curious about the Buddha's powers, asked if he could fly to the realm of Brahma. The Buddha, with gentle eloquence, replied, "While the Tathagata concentrates the mind in the body and the body in the mind, the Tathagata naturally rises into the air and manifests various supernatural abilities." Yet, the Buddha never encouraged the use of such powers as a means to convince others. He regarded them as mere byproducts of spiritual practice, not its ultimate goal. In fact, he warned against the allure of these abilities, cautioning that they could lead people astray, mistaking them for the end of the path. To emphasize this, he openly described such displays as dangerous, blameworthy, and something to be avoided. To protect the purity of his teachings, the Buddha strictly forbade monks from demonstrating supernatural powers in front of lay people, even with good intentions. He even established severe penalties for those who violated this rule. In the end, the Buddha's message was clear. Supernatural abilities are not measures of truth or enlightenment. True wisdom and liberation are the essence of the path he taught. The appearance and character of the Buddha. A man of noble bearing, with radiant golden-hued skin, and a clear, melodious voice that inspires trust and admiration. This was the image of Buddha Gotama, as described by the Brahmin Sonadanda. Handsome, pleasing to behold, inspiring faith. His skin resembles the color of a lotus flower glowing like the radiance of Brahma. His voice is refined, his words elegant, eloquent yet simple. This striking appearance was not merely symbolic of his purity, but held significant cultural meaning in the context of Indian society, where bright golden skin was associated with high status and nobility. Yet the Buddha's true nobility was not confined to his outward appearance. It was his character that left an indelible mark. Even as Prince Siddhartha, he stood apart. While young men of his age were captivated by entertainment or engaged in military training, Siddhartha was contemplative, immersed in profound philosophical thought. He did not seek material pleasures or political power. Instead, he was deeply troubled by the imperfections of the world, yearning to find a path beyond suffering. Then, in 528 BCE, the moment of enlightenment changed everything. It not only brought the Dhamma, a path of liberation, to humanity, but also transformed Prince Siddhartha from a reserved, introspective thinker into a great teacher and guide. For 45 years, the Buddha journeyed tirelessly, sharing his teachings with people far and wide. His words carried a remarkable power, inspiring thousands to follow his path. Yet even during the height of his influence, the Buddha occasionally sought solitude. Like a lone bull wandering the wilderness, he retreated to find inner calm and renewal. As he grew older, the Buddha spent more time with his close disciples and appeared less frequently in public. His health declined. He occasionally suffered from ailments such as stomach pains and backaches, reminders of the physical limitations of age. Despite these challenges, his mind remained sharp, his teachings as lucid as ever. One afternoon, at the Eastern Bamboo Grove Monastery, the Buddha was seen basking in the sun, his back bare, while the Venerable Ananda gently massaged his frail legs. The Buddha remarked softly, without sadness, "This body now holds together, bound only by straps." He understood with perfect clarity that even the body of an enlightened one could not escape the impermanence of existence. This too was a lesson, his final teaching to humanity. Even as his physical form waned, the Buddha's spirit stood as a testament to resilience, wisdom, and compassion, leaving behind an enduring legacy that continues to guide humanity toward liberation. The personality and psychological traits of the Buddha. Amidst the serene and dignified presence of Buddha Gotama emerged an extraordinary character, one imbued with boundless compassion, unshakable equanimity, and transcendent wisdom. His psychological traits are beautifully encapsulated in 4 qualities: loving, kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. Qualities that were not just ideals, but the very essence of how he lived. In his teachings, the Buddha consistently emphasized the values of peace and nonviolence. He taught that even warriors who die for their country cannot escape the karmic consequences of hatred and anger if their hearts remain consumed by these emotions. He declared, "Hatred is never appeased by hatred, it is only appeased by love." This is an eternal truth. The Buddha's compassion extended far beyond humanity, encompassing all sentient beings, even plants and nature itself. He rejected professions that caused harm, such as butchery, hunting, and destruction of the environment. He taught that only when the heart is rooted in loving kindness and free of anger can one truly walk the path to liberation. However, the Buddha tempered his compassion with balance. He remained unmoved by either praise or criticism. Once, a Brahmin harshly insulted him with heavy words. The Buddha, smiling gently, asked, "If someone offers a meal but the guest refuses it, to whom does the meal belong?" When the Brahmin replied that the meal would remain with the giver, the Buddha calmly said, "Likewise, the insults you have hurled at me remain with you, as I do not accept them." even in the heat of tense debates, the Buddha maintained his composure. A philosopher once observed, "The complexion of the blessed Gotama remains clear and radiant. He does not blush with anger." This unshakable calm demonstrated his mastery of self, his wisdom, and his unwavering confidence. However, the Buddha's tranquility did not mean he tolerated distortions of his teachings. He openly corrected disciples who misrepresented the Dhamma, protecting the truth as one safeguards a precious treasure. When it came to the arts, the Buddha disapproved of forms of entertainment like singing, dancing, and theatrical performances, which he believed aroused desires and distracted the mind from inner peace. Yet his discernment was refined. He once praised the voice of a celestial musician whose song extolled the virtues of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. In every aspect of life, from personal conduct to his teachings for humanity, the Buddha embodied a perfect balance between compassion and wisdom, emotion and reason, inner stillness and outward action. This profound harmony is the timeless legacy he left to the world. How the Buddha viewed himself. Imagine a person who had transcended all worldly limitations, someone who no longer belonged to any category of ordinary beings. After attaining enlightenment at the age of 35, the Buddha realized he was no longer an ordinary man, but a unique kind of being. With boundless wisdom and compassion, he declared to his former ascetic companions, "Do not call me a sage. I am now an arahant, a perfectly enlightened one." Born into nobility, with exceptional education and unparalleled intellect, the Buddha was never intimidated by anyone. He spoke as an equal to kings and engaged in frank discussions with the most arrogant Brahmins. Once, when criticized for not rising to greet a group of Brahmins, the Buddha calmly responded, "I see no one in this world worthy of such reverence from me." This confidence was not arrogance, but the self-assurance of a fully awakened being. He once explained, "An arahant does not perceive themselves as superior, inferior, or even equal to anyone." The Buddha was not a prophet seeking to attract followers through promises or threats, nor did he rely on any supernatural authority. For him, enlightenment was a profound breakthrough in understanding, the realization that suffering could be completely eradicated and that liberation came only through individual effort. Nirvana, in his words, was the extinguishing of all greed, hatred, and ignorance. People often said that encountering the Buddha was like meeting someone who lived in the world but was not of it. He was like a lotus flower that blooms in muddy water yet remains untainted by it. The Buddha himself said, "The Tathagata has understood the world and gone beyond it." What the Tathagata teaches is not philosophy, but realized truth, leading to liberation. When faced with abstract metaphysical debates, the Buddha redirected attention to practical realities. Using the analogy of a handful of leaves, he explained that his teachings represented only a small fraction of what he knew. "I teach only what is useful, what leads to enlightenment. The rest, though known to me, I do not teach, as it is unnecessary." The Buddha described himself as a guide, someone who shows the way to liberation but cannot compel anyone to walk the path. He once said, "I am merely a guide. The path exists, but not everyone chooses to follow it." Those with the right conditions who listen and practice will reach nirvana, others will not. What more can I do? This is how the Buddha saw himself, a wise teacher, a guide who showed the way without coercion, living in the world yet untouched by its defilements.